Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we're originating original origins. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. I have been watching the Lord of the Rings movies, the theatrical releases.
Oh, I did this recently, but not the theatrical releases.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because the extended cuts are on HBO.
Oh, I
If
did
people
not
don't know this, you gotta. If you don't know it, you can just they're like up there as separate things. Do you have? Are you watching like DVDs that you own, or are you watching them
No,
on
I've
HBO?
just been watching it on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
And they might have the extended editions. I didn't even look for them. I just saw that they had, because I consider I've been in the mood for like a Christmas like holiday movie.
Yes.
And these totally like hit the spot for me. Like
Yeah.
they rewatching them, they don't it's difficult to imagine people making a movie like this because it's so big-hearted. It's so like
yes,
earnest,
so sincere,
sincere,
Yeah.
and like not afraid to be like corny
Mhm.
or like talk about like how much people love each other.
So much love between
Yeah,
the characters in
it's
those
great.
movies. Yeah.
I really love these movies.
What made you? What like pointed you in? Just you wanted something like holiday, something.
Yeah,
like,
I wanted like in something in that spirit. And
Yeah.
I love Fellowship of the Ring so much.
Fellowship's the best.
Yeah, my personal opinion is that of the theatrical versions, and maybe even the extended cuts as well, I just haven't watched those as much. That the quality is in order of release.
Yeah,
think
I agree.
Fellowship of the Rings is the best by far. I think Two Towers is good, and like a Return of the King isn't a bad movie by any sense, but it takes so much time up in like battles, which I don't think are these movies' strengths.
Right, and especially as they age, I think it is definitely not their strength. Like the things that were spectacular to us in like 2003 or whatever, like just don't feel like they start to feel like video gamey or something, But yeah, I recently watched all three of these in the extended cuts with some friends that I've got like around the country, like just watching them on Zoom with them, and the thing about the end of the Return of the King is that like the movie feels long because it is long, especially the extended cut is almost 4 hours long. But like the fact that the ending is as long as it is, I love because it feels so good. Like the movie's too long because there are too many battles. But like them saying goodbye, them jumping up and down on that bed, the coronation of Aragorn, like all of it, I'm just like, I love this.
They're all such good like character moments and like capstones to these stories.
Yes. I'm so glad that you're watching them. Did you watched all three and you're done with them now?
No, so I'm in, because I've just been watching them like in like bits here and there, and so I'm in Return of the King right now.
Where are you in Return of the King? I must know.
So I am at the part where the characters who like towards the end, the characters whose name I can't remember like throws himself or like catches on fire and runs.
Denethor.
Yeah,
Yes.
Denethor.
As played by John Noble.
Soon
to be on Fringe. Remember when he was on Fringe?
I do remember. I remember being super excited about Fringe.
Yeah, me too. I also remember being super excited about Sonic Forces, my copy of which you could borrow if you email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address. We can send you my copy of this game, Sonic Forces, for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. I have paid for postage already to you and back to me. There may be a
Here
copy.
and back again.
Yeah, that's very good. There may be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in there, but that's fine too. That's just part of the perfect borrowing program. Mark, let's get into our main topic. We've been talking about Lord of the Rings a lot, so let's get into the real business. Let's come up with some Origins games. Lord of the Rings Origins, The Hobbit,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so the Game Awards, there was a reveal of a new Bayonetta game, hot on the heels of Bayonetta 3, called Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon, which is notable for a couple different reasons, right? First is that like it's an extension of the Bayonetta series, and like sort of a step into another kind of gameplay, seemingly.
Yeah.
That it looks a little bit more like a 3D like adventure
Yeah, with like an
action.
isometric like
Yeah.
perspective.
So like kind of ditching the like hardcore like combat game that Bayonetta is, or like the what do you call the where it's more of like a character based action game.
I think that might be
Yeah, I
it.
think maybe character based action game is probably it. And notably, it also has like a different art style, which seems to prioritize like a cuteness. Bayonetta is like a little gothic, a little hypersexual, and but like otherwise like kind of realistic in its
Yeah,
aims, right?
in like a Wii era type
Yeah.
rendering.
Yeah, that's right. A PlayStation 3, an early PlayStation 3 um realistic rendering of characters and settings. And then like the last like thing that we kind of like noted about it is that it has this storybook presentation, right? So Bayonetta is normally just like the sort of normal presentation of a video game. It's being presented to you the way that any character-based action, Devil May Cry, is presented to you in much the same way. But Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon. I will keep wanting to say Cerveza, which I know is Spanish for beer, and not not this character's name, I'm sure. So they're like through a storybook. So like obviously that is evocative of any number of things, but like feels like like kind of bedtime. So it feels cozy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, hey, it'd be fun to come up with some other Origins style games that follows those same three sort of criteria, those three rules, right? So it's got to be like a slightly different like form of gameplay,
Uh-huh.
maybe one that's more accessible,
Uh-huh.
slightly different art style, or majorly different art style, I guess, whatever, and some unique presentation.
Yeah, I will say that mine are probably like pretty like far departures from their core franchise, I would
Okay.
say.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Which I think is okay though, because like I think the whatever the adventure of Bayonetta Origins is going to be, like the moment to moment experience is going to be so different than like scoring combos, beating up
Mm-hmm.
angels or whatever in Bayonetta 3, for example.
I also took the origins part like pretty literal.
Oh, me too.
Oh, okay.
Me too. Look, I narrowed it on some characters, and I was like, I want to see their first days.
Yeah, okay,
I want to.
perfect.
How did they become this?
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
Patrick, why don't you go first?
Okay, all right. I will go first. And my first pick, I was thinking about. Look, we have a couple things that we go back to over and over again, right? Some of our like favorite, we refer to them as like our hobby horses. And I was like, you know what? I need to broaden my pool of references, things that we talk about that are more like obscure Nintendo things. And so my first pitch here is for Panel de Pon Origins.
Ooh.
So Panel de Pon is basically Tetris Attack, or the version of it that was released in Japan, and then we eventually got it as part of the Switch, Super NES, Nintendo Switch Online service. And instead of featuring like Yoshi and Mario characters, it instead features 9 fairies that are all like connected to the various elements of the world. So the fairies are Lip, the flower fairy, Windy, the wind fairy, Sherbet, the ice fairy, Tiana, the nature fairy, Ruby, the jewel fairy, Elias, the water fairy, Flare, the fire fairy, Neris, the sea fairy, and Saren, the moon fairy. Okay, so there'll be a quiz on it later. These 9 fairies, right? And they're each like associated with like an element, sort of broadly speaking. And in Panel de Pon / like Tetris Attack, it's like that match 3 sort of gameplay. So like you're moving blocks around, and it's to like strengthen their magic to defend the forest or whatever. So my idea for this Origins game is that you would play as each one of the fairies in like a 3D platformer kind of level, and your goal is just to collect 3 blocks of their element and then like match them up.
Oh, that's cool.
And then like in each one, like when you clear one fairy's level, you get to take that fairy into someone else's level. And as I was like thinking about this, I was like, it feels a little bit like Balan, Wonder World or Wonderland, whatever the name of that game is. But this would be better.
An important
distinction.
This
yes.
fake game, one of the requirements for it
must be better than Balan.
I love that. I love also that you're finding the good fight and broadening the horizons of this show, because Patrick.
Well, hold on. Before you tell me that you're going to do a Rusty real deal origin, let me tell you. Oops, my phone timer is going off for some reason. That the presentation here.
Oh yes.
So I want the presentation to be stealing this idea from Blossom Tales, but like someone telling a bedtime story. So like if a child is like, no, that's too scary, that like it changes.
Oh, that's fun.
In the game.
I like that a lot. That's a great one.
Thank you. Now tell me about Rusty Origins.
Yeah, here we go. Rusty's Real Deal Baseball Origins. The presentation is like one of like a sports manga.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like it is a young Rusty, and I consider this to be a alternate history to Rusty, because we know in canonically in Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, Rusty was a professional baseball player, and then he eventually is running this like sports equipment store. But that is just one path that Rusty's life could have taken.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
What is Rusty's sliding door moment? How did he get, on the path to be the own a sports store, a sports equipment store, rather than becoming like a sports commentator or a high school baseball coach?
Okay.
Or like finishing sports and opening his own line of steakhouses, right? There's like a million things that could have happened to Rusty, and Rusty's Real Deal Baseball is just one thread in the potential tapestry of a life.
Well, so we're getting like a Rusty multiverse.
Yes,
that's
love
right.
This.
And I love this.
Yeah, and so, but basically, it is like a visual novel. Essentially, there's not like a very much gameplay to it. It's just you are experiencing the story, and then there are moments where you have to make critical or choices that could or could not end up to be critical. You don't really know what is the thing that sets you off on a different path in life. And you just have the opportunity to see, yes, maybe you do experience the Rusty's Real Deal Baseball timeline where he has like all of these kids, and he's he's thinning. His hair is thinning.
His hair is thinning. Not his nose hair though.
No,
his
not
hair
his nose
is
hair.
thickening.
But hey, maybe you also are experiencing Rusty's Real Deal Baseball thinner timeline where he hits an old woman with his car.
Sure.
And
she
cursed.
curses him. Yeah, right. So
all of these things could be possible
totally
in Rusty's Real Deal Baseball Origins.
Wow. Okay. So, but this is like you pick it up as he's a professional baseball player.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And so is it
rookie season?
Sure. Okay. So we're starting at the beginning.
Exactly.
Okay.
Anything could happen. Maybe you get injured early, and your life makes a turn, and now you're teaching art in Nova Scotia.
When do you think Rusty got married? Before he made pro or after he made pro?
The sense I get, especially because he has such young puppies, is that it's after after his career ended.
Oh.
And so he had his glory days of like playing professional baseball were behind him.
Right.
And he's living his life now as just like suburban dog.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe even meeting his wife could be part of your Rusty's Real Deal Origins experience.
Think of the possibilities.
That's pretty good. I mean, we've probably pitched a Rusty dating simulator
I
at some point
it.
on here.
With as many episodes of this show as we've done.
Yeah, I mean,
and as much as we talk about Rusty's Real Deal Baseball.
And I didn't mean to preemptively insult what your pick ended up being.
I actually kind of like this. I mean, you could probably guess my other ones if it really came down to it.
Look, if there's a Stanley the Bugman one in here.
Oh, there isn't. Oh, that'd be
I
so
also
good.
don't have a Stanley the Bugman.
Stanley the Bugman. Where did he get his bug spray?
Why is he so interested in defending greenhouses from bugs?
Is it his job? What's his passion? lots more to learn about Stanley.
Right, but not in this episode
No.
of Nintendo Cartridge Society.
That's right.
That's a fun game. I would absolutely play it for a little bit. I don't have too much patience for visual novels, but I would be happy when you tell me about it.
We'd both buy it because we want to support the Rusty's Real Deal Baseball.
Right.
We just want more of those games.
Oh, I mean, I think we can just just blanket statement anything with Rusty in it or on it or like we're there. Right?
Yeah. I'm not much of an amiibo collector, but if they were like, do you know what?
If there was a Rusty
I'd
amiibo,
buy. Yeah.
Holy cow! Kind of wouldn't matter how much it was. Like
No.
if it was $100, like I think I'd want it.
Yep.
Okay, my next pitch here, Mega Man Origins. Now, I am a little worried that what I'm about to pitch probably exists and is a type of game that I don't actually want to play. But okay, so in Mega Man 1, like the premise of Mega Man 1 is Dr. Light has made all of these robots. Mega Man, Roll, the 6 robot bosses, and Proto Man, right? And these 6 robot bosses have been turned evil by Dr. Wily. But like before that, they must have been like one happy robot family. So like I just want to spend time with those 9 robots and like Mega Man and Roll and Proto Man have sort of like their actual roles, like what they do is not totally clear. I guess Roll is like a made robot, but Proto Man and Mega Man, I don't know. They seem like they're programmed to be warriors.
Yeah, they must have been invented for some purpose.
Some purpose. And maybe just to like keep the old scientist company. But the rest of them, like Cutman is a logging robot. Fireman, does like furnace-y stuff. Electman repairs like electrical cables. Like they all had roles in society. So what if the game is just like Mega Man helping the rest of them like do their jobs?
I love that. It's kind of like a chibi robo-ish.
It is a little chibi robo-ish, and like still would need to be like a 2D platformer. But like very like small objective based sort of things. Like you'd go up to Gutsman and he'd be like, I need to help them dig this hole for the mine. And you're like, oh, I'll help get rid of, mountain lions or whatever.
Right.
So he can dig the hole.
I love that.
And I just, a couple months ago, we ranked the Robot Masters in the first 3 Mega Man games. And it just made me like reflect on how much I like the designs of those characters and just wish they could be friends instead of having to battle each other all the time.
Yeah, that would be fun to see. That would be fun to spend time, like you said, with them in happier times before whatever happened. My next pick is Rambi Origins.
Oh, okay.
So, to my mind, this is a
Donkey Kong Country Origins Rambi.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Or yeah. What would it be? Rambi, a Donkey Kong story.
Right. I have a joke like that coming up in a bit.
Okay, so Rambi Origins, or sorry, Donkey Kong Country Rambi Origins. Or no, Donkey Kong Country Origins Rambi.
Rambi.
Yeah, because there could be many of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Espresso, Winky, the snake has a name.
Spring something with like boing.
Yeah, it's something like boing.
Yeah,
I'll look it up.
So my idea is that these animal friends had to have come from somewhere. Maybe it was like a Kremlin-run circus.
Ratley.
Huh. Not one of the best.
We weren't even close on that one.
But yeah, these animal buddies had to come from somewhere. And where did they come from? So my idea is that there is a Kong that we haven't met yet, Kindly Kong, we'll call them, who takes in, like animals in need that have been like injured or, removed from distressing situations, like whatever it is, Kindly Kong like fosters these animals and kind of like rehabilitates them back to health and gives them a new purpose, right? Which is to help Donkey Kong and the other Kongs on their quest. And the way that they do this is like, and man, this is really just checking off all of the boxes on NCS Bingo.
Yeah.
Is through a pocket card jockey
Whoa.
esque gameplay where you're
I was
basically.
not expecting that. I was thinking more of like a Nintendog sort of setup.
Oh, that's interesting. No, yeah, I was mentioning it's like like a solitaire game
Yeah.
that like as you do it, the better that you perform, the quicker that you do it. Like Rambi runs faster, Espresso can float higher, like all of these things that are important to these animals, and just kind of it's a way to learn more about Rambi and also experience Donkey Kong Country's world in a different way.
Can it also be a little Nintendogs like? Because here's the thing, I'm just Rambi, when you like let his idle animation go by, he sort of like looks at the camera and pants.
Yeah, he's like a little
dog.
dog.
He's like a little dog.
Yeah, I do like that. I wonder if it's like maybe it is kind of like the Pokemon type thing where the main gameplay is Pocket Card Jockey-esque. Then there's also these times where you're just like resting and relaxing and hanging out with these animal buddies, which is maybe like camping in Sword and Shield,
right? Or having curry with them, or
exactly, yeah.
That's good. And honestly, it answers or addresses a question I didn't realize I had, which is, if everything else in the jungle wants to kill the Kongs and steal their bananas, why are these animal buddies their buddies?
Right.
It's because of Kindly Kong.
Kindly Kong.
Also, Kindly Kong is that's like an MVP for the Kongs. That's because the rest of them all seem like kind of selfish and self-involved.
Well, I mean, they do.
This one's nice.
They do go on quests. I mean, they feel like a real clan because they go on quests, but it's mostly to like help each other.
Right. Or get bananas back.
Right.
Which is the craziest thing of all. Let the bananas go. There will be more bananas.
Just get more bananas.
Just it's okay. You shouldn't be hoarding them in a cave anyway. Do you know how fast bananas go bad after you pick them? I actually have no idea how long after you pick a banana. I've never seen a freshly picked banana. So, all right, that's a good one. Mark, for my next pick, you tell me if this is a well that we go back to frequently.
Okay.
Famicom Detective Club Origins, Shunsuke Utsugi. So this is the detective from Famicom Detective Club who takes in the player character as his ward, and is like it's his mentor, right? So the original Famicom Detective Club game came out in 1988, so I think we can assume that's about when it took place. So I want this game to be like his origins as like a young like hardscrabble PI in the 70s in Japan, and just like solving little mysteries, right? And the format for this, the presentation, would be like a 45-minute to an hour long like episode of like a regular detective kind of show, right? So maybe like 22 episodes in the game.
Speaking my language.
So a real like like either Jessica Fletcher or like Columbo sort of
like
thing.
Matlock.
Or like Matlock, except all of these things but a young man. And in Japan, but in the 70s. And that's I would want it to be like Famicom Detective Club, but with just an aggressive hint system that's like super helpful, and more like graying out of options when they're not going to be like useful or helpful anymore.
I love this idea that it is like a Japanese like television detective show that is either set or maybe like was filmed contemporaneously in the 70s.
Yes.
That just seems so fun and like untapped potential.
I also just love the idea of like, here's a video game adventure, detective adventure that lasts an hour, and then you can be done with it.
Yep.
Like, just again, I'm a broken record here, but I've been playing God of War for like 40 hours and I'm not done with it yet. So it's just like, give me a video game that's like, here's an hour, here's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And like these episodes, let me tell you, Mark, they're not connected. There's no overarching story. Each one is a discrete mystery that you solve by the end.
Well, and like you're saying, like if each one takes an hour, but there's 22 of them, that's still a good sized game.
It's still a good sized game.
Are able to do it at your own pace. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea.
Famicom Detective Club Origins, Shinsuke Utsugi.
Well, here's my next pitch is
is that a well that we go back to a lot?
I think that I would say that Famicom Detective Club we talk an inordinate amount about compared to the rest of the world,
right?
But not as much. as some of the other hobby horses we have.
That's true. Also,
It's like a demi hobby horse.
I totally. I gotta say, when those games came out and we played them, like I had a super fun time.
Oh, I loved them. Yeah, I really genuinely want them to make more of them.
Yeah, me too.
Wave Race 64 Origins.
Yes. Yes.
The question I want to answer in this game is, what is the origins of this jet ski racing league? So
Sure.
you play
A fine question.
as
Why are people racing jet skis?
you play as a person with a dream. Create a racing league for jet skis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what? It's like a sim management game. When I was really young, we had an Apple II that like my mom's dad, who was a college like administrator and professor, I think must have gotten from work, like when they were getting rid of it or something.
Yeah.
And there was a game on it called Lemonade Stand. And the game was like, you set the price.
Mm-hmm.
You set, I can't even remember like how
Sugary.
yeah, sugary and like all these just a few variables. And then you press enter or return, and then the next screen tells you like what the weather is, and there's like a little visualization of the weather. And then and then the third screen is like, here's what you made for the day. And then that's it. And I'm imagining not quite that rudimentary.
No, I want exactly that presentation.
Not quite
like
that
an Apple
rudimentary.
II. I love it.
But that's Wave Race 64 Origins.
Mhm.
You're a person with a dream and a spreadsheet, and you're like, all right, how do I make this happen?
Yeah.
I have a P&L sheet that I have to take care of.
Sure.
Like the real nuts and bolts. Maybe one of those sim games that I always talk about but never play.
Right. The really specific sims.
So it's like it's basically like jet ski racing league operations simulator. The game.
This is good. You weren't lying about like far departure from like from the original gameplay.
Yeah.
No, I think that's good. It's again, Mark, you are addressing questions I did not realize I had, but like, yeah, why is there this like jet ski racing thing? Whose passion birthed that?
Exactly, and I'd like to think that it was more than just like Kawasaki looking for a way to continue to monetize and grow their jet ski base. I would really like to believe that it was like someone's passion project.
Right. So someone sat down with a love for the sport and a spreadsheet.
And a love for the sport and a strong knowledge of Excel.
Right. And and a desire to increase revenue.
That's right. And maybe some, connections in the jet ski industry and
sure.
Like a stepfather with a lot of money. I'm sure that helped.
Are there this organizer doesn't have connections to the mob, do they?
I guess only players of Wave Race 64 Origins will know for sure.
I like that it is Wave Race 64 Origins as well, not just Wave Race Origins. Okay. Mark, for my fourth pitch here, I'm doing a Metroid Origins. Metroid Origins : Aaron, ARAN. Which here is where I was going to make my Aaron a Metroid story joke, the Solo a Star Wars story joke. Okay, so we have like some hints about Samus's upbringing. Like obviously she like she's human, but like is sort of born of like the Chozo people.
Like raised by the Chozo?
It's not exactly clear to me. This would take place when she is no longer with the Chozo, and therefore like sort of in like an orphan kind of situation.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Still kind of young, but this is where the Solo a Star Wars story connection comes in. She's living in like some city, like on Corellia, and is like in the early days of like bounty hunting, and that she's just like taking odd jobs, whatever, like sometimes violent, usually illegal, like whatever will pay. And this is where she like develops the skills that she will then also put to use in the Galactic Federation.
That's really cool, seeing like a young Samus
In like a sci-fi, almost like GTA setting, right? where like you can take whatever jobs you want from whatever, like, some small business owners, some like gangsters, some like maybe you do some work for like the government or the cops, or like, whoever will pay you.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of, like a Fallout game or something like that.
Yeah.
Where, it's there are all these different quests you can do in different factions, and how you if you do more quests for one faction than another, then it'll change the story in some way.
Yeah.
That'd be super fun.
And the sort of presentation would be that instead of like a storybook, this would be like the whatever the police are on this planet, like their dossiers on like all the incidents that
Oh,
Samus
very
is involved
good.
with. So like there'd be little like on-screen prompts of like when you're going up against like a boss or something, that'd be like, arrested for this or this, and like would have like their rap sheet on the screen, and so you could like use that information to fight them better, or like whatever.
Very good. I have one more like pitch for something I want to see.
Okay, do you then have a pitch for something
I
don't
do have a
want to
pitch
see?
for something
Do you have an anti
that we should not.
Okay.
That I think there's an origin game that we just shouldn't have. But the last one I think I would like to see is Captain Toad Origins.
Yeah.
And this one I am imagining as like an Uncharted like adventure game
Oh, okay, all right.
with like, do you remember
Really high fidelity graphics
exactly?
on this
But
Captain Toad.
do you remember like in 2005-ish that there was like an attempt to like reboot Bomberman as this kind of like hyper masculine like sort of
I
thing?
do not remember
Okay, yeah, and it's like dark and all this very like of the time.
I have a pitch for what it could have been called, Unabomber Man.
But that's the aesthetic I'm imagining for this game. So it's an Uncharted like adventure game that is very cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Toad is voiced by John Hamm, and Toadette is voiced by Viola Davis.
Okay, all right. So they're really throwing some money at this
They're
thing.
really throwing, and it's like, people at Nintendo were walking around with furrowed brow, being like, "What do we do?" Because they always talk about, like, we'll make another F-Zero or something when we have something new to do with it.
Right.
And everybody was really, concerned, like, what do we do with Captain Toad?
Right.
Till light bulb went off on Miyamoto's head.
Right. And he was like, we just need to get John Hamm in a mocap suit.
That's right.
Get his performance capture for Captain Toad.
Well, now he's a Hollywood player now with
yeah.
this the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh yeah, totally. So of course he knows
has all
John
these connections.
Hamm. Of course
He's
he does.
hobnobbing.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so what? So this is like how Captain Toad learns to love adventure.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's good.
Yep.
And like we flash back to him like at the orphanage or whatever.
Right. Yeah, a toad orphanage. I've never thought of that's something it's simultaneously sad and yet delightful.
Do the toads have parents,
I don't know.
or are they just like are they like born with like a cloud of spores or something?
Yeah, or do they do they reproduce asexually? I don't know. I don't know that that's been answered.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe this game will figure it out. Can really like delve deep into it for us. Do you have is Naughty Dog just doing this one? They're going off. They're going out from under Sony's umbrella to make one game for Nintendo.
Make one game. It's
Yeah.
a passion project.
Yeah, Neil Druckmann like, taking a break from The Last of Us
Yep.
to make this game. Yeah, that's good. Is there a special like way that it's presented, or just the fact that it is like a cinematic?
Yeah, just very different from Captain Toad Treasure Tracker.
Yeah. I like that a lot. All right, so now my final pitch, and then your anti-pitch.
Let me do my
Do your
anti-pitch
anti-pitch,
first.
yeah.
And it's just, I don't think we should see Waluigi Origins.
Which
Sorry,
one?
Waluigi.
Okay,
I
all right.
misspoke. Waluigi Origins.
I
I like
yeah.
the mystery.
Yeah, he's like the Joker.
Exactly.
I don't want to know who he is.
How did he get that L?
Yeah. I mean, he sewed it on himself.
Right. Yeah.
It's
variant.
a patch that he put on there. Yeah, you're right. We should never know anything about Waluigi.
No, because it's so good. It feels very clear to me that like Nintendo knows what Waluigi's deal is, but they just like
You think they have an answer?
I do. I think they have like I think they have a canon, or at least a loose like framework for
Mm-hmm.
what Waluigi's deal is. And I'm sure maybe like details are added to it as like, maybe like, how he has that L that,
Mm-hmm.
is an applique that,
Right.
obviously he made himself, all that kind of stuff. Like I don't think that happened in the Nintendo 64 era, but I think as like just Waluigi makes more appearances, I do think that they have like a cohesive story that they're
Yeah, the canon is malleable. So they can
exactly.
change it as their needs fit.
Yes.
This makes me want to like pull off a heist and like go to Kyoto and like figure this out.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Mark, we shall never speak of Waluigi's origins ever again.
Put it in the book.
In the book, closing the book. For my final pitch, it is actually Wario related. This is WarioWare Origins : 9-volt. 9-volt, we know 9-volt. We love 9-volt. When we get to his levels in every WarioWare game, we're like, great, we're gonna get some like tiny little pieces of like old Nintendo games. But how did 9-volt become such a fan of all these classic video games?
Oh yeah.
It's a great question, right?
It is.
And what do we know about 9-volt? We know that he has his mother 5-volt who takes care of him. But so we see a little bit of his home life, but where's his father?
Right.
Where is 9-volt's father? I'm going to say he was the one who was a fan of video games his whole life. Recently deceased, passed on all of his passion for video games, for classic Nintendo games to 9-volt. So
I feel like you're describing
yeah.
an indie movie that I would see at Sundance.
Yeah, I am. I am, and it would be great, but we're making it a video game instead. And so it's all like the 9-volt WarioWare micro games, kind of mashed up with like a NES remix, right? But not limited to just the NES, right? One of the things that I always love about the 9-volt sections of WarioWare is that they will use, the Ultra Machine and like some of the Nintendo stuff that predates the NES. And for as good a job as Nintendo does of like highlighting the NES, the Super NES libraries, these sort of earlier libraries or like things outside of those home consoles, they don't really, right? So like I'm talking Game & Watch games and like arcade games. A lot of them are kind of just like lost to the ages, right? Or being haphazardly collected by, not even collected, but just like represented by Hamster, right?
Right.
In the arcade archives. So if we could just take like all of those kind of experiences too and just like present them as 9-volt discovering these games like with his dad, then, maybe we could finally get some version of, Donkey Kong Ice Hockey on Switch.
I love it. I think that's such a good way to like present those games.
It's also so. Have you been tracking to Atari 50 at all? So it's a collection of Atari games, and it's put together by. Oh shoot! I just forgot the name of the developer. It's the same people that did the Ninja Turtle collection.
Oh okay.
Early Digital Eclipse.
Oh okay.
And it's like presented with all of these like videos about the like development at Atari and just sort of like it presents them to you in a way that's very like linear. You can see what technological advancements were made between one game and another. And even though, a lot of those Atari games are not actually worth playing or like spending any time with, being part of that like narrative, that sort of historical narrative, is like a satisfying experience in and of itself. And there's just so much in Nintendo's deep back catalog that would be interesting if only presented in a way that was like fun and engaging instead of just like a dump of like,
right,
here are these games.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's really compelling.
But also like I just want to play like the arcade Popeye or any Game & Watch game that we weren't able to get our hands on during Game & Watch month. All right. Well, those are the Origins games that we came up with, and we will never be talking about Waluigi's origin.
It's a promise.
It's a promise. But we would love to hear your ideas. If you have any Origins games that you would like to play, email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. Okay, Mark, let's close this out. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. You should follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. You should also join our Discord. All you gotta do is email us or hit us up on Twitter. Let us know that you would like to be in there. We will happily send you an invitation. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.